Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have the Affinitiv panel. And Ted, exciting conversation about service search and how it has changed. We're going to be talking about GEO and AEO strategies for dealers.
Sarah, I love it. It is so relevant. And here we have the force behind marketing, both of them at Affinitiv. Dean Martin, Vice President of Marketing at Affinitiv, welcome. And Janae, Puleo, Director of Digital Marketing at Affinitiv. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to be here as always.
Yep. And we were chatting briefly in the green room. Not only is this relevant, Sarah, but happening at super fast speed. So great information for our audience today.
It is, Ted, and I'm excited to get started. Well, Janae, I want to come to you first because I understand you are the subject matter expert when it comes to all things GEO and AEO. But first, I would love for you to set the definition because we have a lot of dealers in our audience today that may not be familiar with those terms and exactly, what do both of those things mean when it comes to dealers?
Sure. So, what's actually happening is a pretty major shift right now in how customers are finding service departments these days. And at a really simple level, SEO used to be about ranking. AEO and GEO are about being the answer. But the part that dealers need to understand is those answers don't come from ads, right? They don't come from whoever's bidding the most. They come from whoever has the most relevant, structured, trustworthy content. And that's where your SEO team is going to come in, but also newly AEO and GEO. So AEO stands for Answer Engine Optimization. And that's making sure that your dealership is the one being pulled into that answer. And GEO is Generative Engine Optimization, which is the next layer. And that's optimizing so that AI platforms actually choose your dealership when they generate a response. So instead of competing for position number one, you're competing to be the one recommendation. And for fixed ops, this is a really massive opportunity because think about how people are searching for service, right? They're not browsing, they have a problem, they don't have time to research and they want an answer. They're searching, why are my brakes squeaking? Or can I drive with a check engine light on? Those are really high intent, ready to act customers. So if your dealership is the one answering those questions clearly, locally with real info, you're not just getting traffic, you're getting the customer before they even consider going to somebody else.
Dean, this sounds really powerful. And I mean, I'm definitely the consumer that is doing what Janae is describing today, where I plug it right into Chat GPT or another AI tool and ask that question. My car's making a weird noise. What could it possibly be?
Yeah, and this is the state of the SEO and AEO GEO world now is it's not just AEO and somebody going to Google or Safari to search these things. Our customers are using all of these things to get the answers they need and to find out the best possible answer for the problem they're having. AEO is really driving a lot of those service questions. We're obviously seeing this on the sales side to make these dealerships discoverable because there's a long discovery process when purchasing a vehicle, but there's also discovery in figuring out the best solution for the service and maintenance needs you have for your vehicle. And then we look at the GEO side and being discoverable for Gemini, for ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity.
Janae, it's happening, as we mentioned earlier, really fast in the industry. How should dealers in our audience think about the difference, especially for fixed operations?
Sure. So the easiest way for dealers to think about the difference is AEO is what you're saying, and GEO is about where you're showing up, both extremely important. So AEO is answering the actual service questions customers are asking. So again, things like, do I need an appointment for service? That's your content. That's going to be your website, your service pages, your FAQ sections, being clear, structured, and helpful enough that Google or AI can pull you into an answer. GEO is more of the distribution layer, and it's making sure that your dealership shows everywhere those questions are being asked, not just Google. Today, about 50% of consumers are using other means of searching like ChatGPT and Siri, like Dean was mentioning, and even their car's voice assistant. I know in my vehicle, I have the option to ask Siri if my phone is on me. I can ask a question, or I can also say, "Hey Mercedes," and they will both do the research on my behalf. So for fixed ops, AEO gets you chosen in the answer. GEO makes sure that you're even in the conversation to begin with. And the dealers that win are doing both of those things. They're answering real service questions, and they're making sure that they're visible wherever customers are going to be asking them. So in tandem, both are very important.
I love all that. Amazing. Dean, this sounds like a fundamental change in the way consumers are going to be interacting with fixed operations at dealerships.
Yeah, it really is. And one of the examples I like to use is the library example. So if you look at SEO versus AEO and GEO, um, as you go into a library, typical SEO would be you go to, the library's Dewey Decimal System, and you look at the cards, and it points to a certain section of the library and says, we think this is the best place that you should research. Now with AEO and GEO, the difference is you're going to the front of the library and then asking the question to the head of the library manager, and they're giving you the answers based on all of the information within the library as best it can. So the goal is to make sure that all of that information is listed on the dealership websites for all of the specific questions that are related to what all of our customers are asking, based on if they're trying to understand how long brake pads typically last, or if the service that's being recommended is truly worth doing. So that's really the example I like to use, because that is the current state of the industry now, and things that dealers need to be paying attention to.
Dean, this is so fascinating. And Janae, a lot of our audience, I'm sure, as Dean mentioned, is still focused on the variable side when it comes to their website and thinking about, well, how do I position myself to get more traffic, to sell more cars? But the reality is fixed operations is more than ever an important, probably the most important component of how dealerships are going to maintain their profitability and the retention of their customers in the community. So is this something that dealers need to worry about now? Or is, the scope of this with fixed operations still in an early adoption phase?
I would say this is definitely something dealers should be paying attention to right now. Not so much in a panic way, but more in a positioning way, because the behavior has already changed. In the past 6 months alone, consumers have changed the way that they're searching, and they're using natural language when they're searching for those things. So they're getting answers directly from Google or AI without clicking through 10 websites, the way that we're used to doing research, and you're taking the time to scroll and do your due diligence. So this isn't really an early adoption, right? It's already happening now. What's early about this is dealers actually optimizing for it. So it's a massive opportunity, especially for fixed ops, because most dealers aren't answering these questions clearly on the website. They're still focused on regular SEO, basic concepts that they've learned how to do on their site, and they're not structuring their service pages properly, and they're definitely not thinking about how AI is pulling that information. So I can't stress enough to my dealers how important it is to layer on AEO and GEO to their current SEO service. And the time to do it is now. The way I look at it is you don't need to overhaul everything overnight, but you do need to start answering real service questions, building that content, getting it structured properly, adding schema, answering FAQs, answering customer reviews. That's a huge one. Making sure that you're responding to your customers, and you're going to get ahead of your competitors if you do that before they even realize what's happening. So I wouldn't say it's too early, but it's also not something that you want to be late on either. I do have one example.
Okay.
Recently on my team, we all know how regular SEO works, right? You create some content, you optimize it, put it on the website, and you're usually waiting about anywhere between 30 to 60 days for that page to be kind of optimized and cited online. With AEO and GEO, things are working at a much different pace. Within 24 hours of creating specific AEO, GEO content for the dealership, within 24 hours, it was cited in an AI overview answer, which is faster than we've ever seen something before. So you're able to create the content if you're doing it properly and using an SEO team. Similar to what we have, we can guarantee that we're seeing very quick results, and it's in the space that we want it to be in.
I love that. Wow. Can I follow up with you, Janae, on that as well?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, how is AI search changing the way customers discover service departments? And I'll give you an example for me. Now, when I do as a consumer an AI search, it seems the question I ask is longer than what it used to be. Now I ask more specific questions because I get much more specific answers.
Yes, search is definitely shifting from keywords to natural language, and customers who are evaluating who they're trying to say who can solve my problem the fastest. And we're all used to typing oil change near me or clicking on
Yes.
a few websites, comparing those options, comparing pricing, maybe even checking to see who can get me in sooner or who can get my oil change done faster, right? Those are important to me. I don't want to wait around for too long. But now we're being trained to ask those full questions. So where should I get my oil change that's open today with minimal wait times? You can be as specific as you'd like to be. And AI is actually doing the work for us. It's actually summarizing those options, recommending places, and
Yes.
and sometimes they're even narrowing it down to one or two businesses. So what's happening is the consideration phase
Exactly.
is shrinking, and customers are making decisions before they even land on your site. So for fixed ops, it's really important because these are high intent moments, right? So something's wrong with their car, they need an answer and they need it fast. So if your service department is showing up in the AI generated answer, you're not just one of the options, you are now the recommendation. And you're trusted by AI, and there's an incredible amount of trust that people trust in these systems. They believe that the research is being done on their behalf. They trust what's being shown, and they're following it. But if you're not there, you're not being considered, right? So like back to my example, if you're asking Siri while you're driving, Siri is not presenting you with a page of options to look through. It's giving you, hey, you should go here, and you're probably going to go because that's what it recommended. So discovery is no longer about who has the best website or who ranks number one. It's about who's providing the clearest, most helpful local answers to the exact questions that customers are asking. And that's why this shift is such a big deal for service, because the dealers who adapt to this are going to capture customers earlier and with a lot less competition.
Dean, it seems if I'm a dealer or a fixed ops director, service parts director, I really can't afford to be late to the game because my competition may be doing this already.
Absolutely. And we're seeing the exponential growth over the past 18 months. And I mean, this is how AI is growing is something we've never seen before. And I know service managers are probably thinking, great, another version of SEO I now have to contend with. And when we get it, but there is no better opportunity than now for these dealers that are willing to get out ahead of the competition, especially the aftermarket repair shops that are focusing on these things, and we're starting to see a little bit of that. But the dealers who are getting ahead are going to see the benefit in claiming those service dollars.
Dean, a follow-up question, if I may, on SEO. So, dealers are sometimes slow to adapt when it comes to new technology and how they go about their processes. So, I know recently in thinking about some dealership conversations I've overheard, SEO is still a topic and optimizing keywords, is still coming up. But what are you seeing? Are dealers still optimizing for keywords while customers are now searching with what Janae described, these full questions? And is that strategy still applicable?
Yeah, it's still applicable, and SEO is now not only just the driver for what Google and the search engines see as the authority on particular topics or keywords or search terms, but now it's part of the equation, right? Customers see a search engine as what we would traditionally, those that know what that is, and I'm sure our audience does, is it's basically a digital version of the Yellow Pages. And AI models are much more conversational, and they're seeing them as true assistants. I know, when you talk to Alexa or you talk to Siri, you feel like they're assistants. Or if you're talking to ChatGPT or Gemini, you can ask them, why is my car shaking when I brake? Or what are the signs of transmission problems? So if you're only using keywords, you're missing out on some of the nuance in LLMs and AI models. So that new strategy is to include those questions in the content of your website, along with the answers in those AI models as you use for citations. We're seeing Google and a lot of the big AI models looking at longer form content. So for a long time, we were looking at content of 2,000 to 3,000 words for a long period of time. That changed probably 7, 8 years ago when they said content of about 800 to 1,000 words is sufficient for traditional SEO.
Hmm.
Now it's moved toward a larger word count. So back up to that 2,000 to 2,500 so
Mhm.
that the LLMs and the AI models can truly extract the information
Wow.
and see that the question and the problem that they're trying to solve is listed and even sometimes mentioned in blog posts and articles on dealer web pages. And so much so that we're now including those questions on the pages. What are the signs of transmission problems? And then we answer the questions. And then we have sometimes even a Q&A at the bottom of those pages.
These are major changes. Janae, I want to follow up with you as well. If I'm a dealer, what questions should I be asking my marketing partner right now?
Yeah, this is one of my favorites because the right questions right now can completely change results. So, the first thing that I would ask is, how are you making sure that we show up in AI generated answers, not just Google rankings?
Right.
And because if the strategy is still just rankings and traffic, it's outdated, much to what we were saying before. So, the second question is, what real service questions are you helping us answer? Not keywords, actual questions like, how much does brake service cost? Or do I need an appointment for an oil change? So if your marketing partner can't clearly show you that, there's going to be a gap.
Mm.
The third thing I would ask is, how are you structuring our content so AI can actually use it? This is where AEO and GEO come back into play because
Okay.
it's not just writing SEO content, it's how it's formatted, how clear it is, and how local the content is. And lastly, I think one of the biggest ones is, how are you measuring success in a zero click world? We talked about this. I think last time, clicks are going down. Everyone is seeing it. It's definitely
Mhm.
something that people are aware of, but it doesn't necessarily mean that performance is going down. So you want to understand: are we showing up in answers? Are we being recommended, and are we driving conversions? So at the end of the day, dealers don't need more reporting. They need to know: are you helping me get chosen, or just helping me show up? And that's really the big difference right now.
Janae and Dean, a lightning round question, if I may, to really bring it home for our dealer audience that's listening today. We've talked a lot about incredible strategies with GEO and AEO, but I'm sure the big question on a lot of dealers' minds is how do I determine what winning in AI search actually looks like in my service department? What is the benchmark where I know I'm being successful? So, with that, lightning round question, what does winning in AI search actually look like?
Yeah, Dean, I could take it if you don't
I
mind.
will
I
let
could
you.
start.
Yeah, take it.
Winning to me looks like being the recommendation. So instead of saying we're ranking number one for an oil change near me, was what people used to say. Winning is when a customer asks, where should I get my oil change near me? And your dealership is the one that's showing up in that answer. Or they're asking, how much does brake service cost for a Chevy Silverado? And your dealership, your pricing, your service department, your name, they were all there in that response. That's winning.
Wow.
And what's interesting is you may not even see the click because the customer trusts these answers so much that they can directly call right from seeing that response. They can book an appointment, or they may just show up to the dealership. So for service departments, winning really looks like you're showing up in for those real customer questions, and you're being positioned as the trusted local expert. You're capturing customers earlier before they start comparing 3 or 4 different shops. They're not browsing around, and it's really less about traffic. It's more about influence. So because if AI is narrowing it down for you to 1 or 2 options and you're one of them, you've already won. So the goal isn't just visibility anymore, I would say. It's about being the dealership that AI trusts enough to recommend, and that's how you win.
Dean, do you want the last word?
Yeah, winning in this AI search, it's again, I think Janae covered it, but it doesn't necessarily mean more traffic. It means quality in the traffic that's coming to your website. What we're seeing, and it also has been mentioned, is we're seeing fewer click-throughs for certain types of searches, but the clicks that are coming through will typically be more relevant. And what's happening with a lot of the searches now, you go and type in, 2011 Toyota Camry spark plugs need to be replaced. Does that need to happen? You'll see AI summaries for some of those things, and there will be citations in there. And sometimes they will lead to a dealer website. The customer isn't always going to click on that. A lot of times what they will do is then go to, Toyota of Tampa Bay to get the information directly from the dealership. So, when you're really looking into, is it worth it to look into the difference between, copper and iridium spark plugs, if there is a true difference between a recommendation of replacing them every 30,000 miles. So the goal is to really inject the confidence in the customer that that information is trustworthy from the dealership.
Dean, your company, Affinitiv, is squarely in this space. You're in the dealer space and you're in the marketing space. What a great place to be right now. But this is the kind of stuff that Affinitiv helps dealers with and can help them with right now.
Absolutely. And the competition for vehicle service has never been greater than it is today. Aftermarket service centers are taking the share from franchise dealers at an alarming rate. So, the dealers who are really leveraging AI to position themselves and working alongside AI, because there are certain applications of AI that you work directly with and you use as tools within, your, fixed and variable. But the goal is to really be that trusted answer source and come out ahead. And at Affinitiv, we are working with dealers every day to improve their visibility with AI models and LLMs, not only for sales, but most importantly here for fixed ops departments.
Sarah, great information and a great time to learn about it.
It is, Ted, and this is going to be and continue to be even more relevant for service departments. And Dean and Janae, I'm excited to see how you'll continue to lead the way for dealers and these strategies.
Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you. Everybody, for more information, you can reach out to Affinitiv on the web at affinitiv.com. Janae and Dean Martin, thank you so much for what you do. I know you're both active on social media, and you got a great team there at Affinitiv. So, everybody, for more information, reach out directly to Affinitiv, affinitiv.com. And Janae and Dean, thank you so much for sharing this super timely information with the roundtable, and great work. And thank you for sharing this.
Thanks for having us.
Ted and Sarah, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Great. The team from Affinitiv, everybody, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.